Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the broadcast. My name is Justice Knight, co-founder of Restricted Republic, filling in today for Lisa Haven. And as you see over my shoulder, UN has authorized the unthinkable. BeiDou is now active and online. China and Russia authorized to strike the United States in 2020. The headline speaks for itself. Two elements have just occurred that have changed the landscape of our great nation for a very, very long time. The first of which, here on Breitbart, UN approves China-backed internet convention, alarming rights advocates, Russia and China banding together for an initiative that changes everything. An initiative that could never have gotten off the ground without this. That is the launching of another satellite for the BeiDou navigation system. China has now completed the core network behind this system. Their satellite count will be 35. Ours will be 30, putting them in a position they've never been in before. This affects every element of technology. This affects every element of suppression. This affects every element of control. This on Gizmodo. China is set to launch its GPS competitor next year. Well, that competition isn't what they want you to believe. It has only a portion to do with GPS. It's a much larger picture. China's BeiDou navigation system to provide unique services. China will provide unique services to global users with the BeiDou navigation satellite system after its construction is finished in 2020. And that will set off a war unlike anything we've ever seen, because that allows China to bypass Google, to bypass our GPS systems, to be self-sufficient, and to create a framework for Saudi Arabia, for Europe, for Russia, for China, of which they'll be able to control everything. And the UN just allowed them to fully execute it. Back to that article. Again, on Breitbart, the United Nations on Friday approved a Russian-led bid that aims to create a new convention on cybercrime, alarming rights groups and Western powers that fear a bid to restrict online freedom. I laugh when I chuckle when I even read some of these headlines. The United Nations authorizes a convention to fight cybercrime as it will be dictated by China and Russia. Should have been your first problem. The General Assembly approved a resolution sponsored by Russia and backed by China, which would set up a committee of international experts in 2020. The panel will work to set up a comprehensive international convention on countering the use of information and communication technologies for criminal purposes or those purposes that China and Russia don't agree with. But we're going to worry about freedom of expression. That's a part of it. China's already given the blueprint of what they're going to do. China's new internet censorship rule highlight roles of algorithms. China's control over online content is likely to tighten further, if that's even possible, with a comprehensive set of rules that defines what is bad or illegal. See, the blueprint's out there. The blueprint that the UN just approved. The content that they'll allow can only encourage the government. If it doesn't encourage what the government believes, then it's shut down. It's criminal. So give power to China and Russia to control the internet across their entire hemisphere of what they feel is right or wrong, what is criminal or unjust, and they shut down all freedoms just to begin with. What happens when they start dictating, as it says here, producers of online content? Dictating what they're able to broadcast and what they're not able to broadcast. The rules encourage those producers to create and release content promoting socialist theories set out by President Xi Jinping, as well as content that helps increase the international influence of the Chinese culture. The Belt Road Initiative, to name one. You see, they weaponized everything they've been working on for years now. I'm going to prove that out to you step by step, along with the algorithm, in an acknowledgement by the Chinese government of the role they play in determining which content reaches which users. They'll control who sees what. Imagine how they can bend reality. to what they want that entire hemisphere to see. Imagine when they make America evil, or at least appear that way. What happens when they dictate a population against us? The same Chinese surveillance arm, People's War of Surveillance, ensures China will never be free. Their camera system that we're all so well aware of now, their satellite system, even being able to push that message of suppression further. China to complete BeiDou competitor to GPS with new launches. Again, stating that this has something only to do with GPS. Of course, we know that now. Future plans calls for a smarter, now we're going to take this next step, more accessible and more integrated system with BeiDou at its core to come online by 2035. Well, what are they referring to there? Let me paint a picture for you. We already know that countries can black out the internet by the snap of a finger. French court clears social media tracking plan in tax crackdown. You see, they're implementing a system, a new set of rules. Here they're saying that we're going to try to find out by monitoring your social media accounts if you've declared the right customs and taxes by what you're using in your post. And if we declare you're not, then we can send the authorities after you. Weaponizing the internet, weaponizing social media. We've seen many elements of this everywhere. We've seen Twitter already enforce it, so it's why. Here, UN moves towards handing dictatorship powers to control the internet. It's much, much worse than this. That published by Paul Joseph Watson. We'll listen into a little clip here.
Twitter is siding with the communist Chinese, and at the same time, Twitter, of course, bans free speech in America. I was banned by Twitter a few months ago.
So weaponization of social media is already occurring here. But what happens when China can weaponize social media, access accounts through continents, creating messages that only they want heard? Under the guise of cybersecurity, the government is moving towards to discredit and shut down the existing internet infrastructure in the pursuit of a new centralized, regulated World Wide Web. It's been the plan for, as he states here, Paul Joseph Watson states, since 2010. The fact that the United Nations is attempting to legitimize this framework by handing oppressive regimes more power to define certain types of speech as criminal is part of the long-term agenda. Now the hate speech agenda comes in. You see the multiple prongs of this attack. It's been laid for a very, very long time. The BeiDou system simply weaponizes all this information as a tool of repression. Iran and regimes from Ethiopia to Venezuela limit internet and go dark online. They weren't alone. Russia did the same. Russia's going to test an internet kill switch, and its citizens will suffer. China has the same capacity and capability. So that's why this launch, this suppression, this UN ruling changes the landscape of the future. They've initiated a war on the United States, and mainstream media is silent about it. Nobody wants you to know what's happening. Forbes did actually a really good job. U.S. and China technology conflict. Here's why 2020 is so critical, because without the re-election of President Donald Trump, what happens if the Democrats seize power in 2020? Will they allow for the U.S., as President Barack Obama did, to hand over control of the internet to the UN and the Chinese and Russia regimes? The answer is a resounding yes, if Trump is not put back in office. As we approach 2020, the heated technology conflicts between the U.S. and China show no signs of a thaw. U.S. President Trump's campaign against leading China technology firms, Huawei, for one, where he doesn't want Canada to release their executive for very good reason, because China and Russia, as they say here, architecting its sovereign internet. It's not a sovereign internet. It's sovereign to communist societies, destroying American societies in their entirety. And you wonder why Google, and why we've watched this so closely, accused by top U.S. general and senator of supporting Chinese instead of U.S. military, because they know what's coming. They know they're about to lose influence in entire continents. Where will their interests lie? in finances or to freedom of America. You see, they've made that very clear already. That's a very black and white delineation that they've never minced words over. During a Senate Armed Services Committee meeting this week, General Joseph Dunford, the chairman of Joint Chief of Staff, was deliberately pointed in his criticism of Google's engagement in China, accusing the company of supporting the regime in Beijing counter to U.S. interest. Between that and BeiDou launching, we're in a lot of trouble. Trouble beyond what's being covered in mainstream, what's being covered even by many of our congressional representatives. Putin now has Russia's internet kill switch to stop U.S. cyber attacks. Is it to stop U.S. cyber attacks or to broadcast a message that China and Russia wants the world to hear? We're in control and we're about to take out the big dog. We're about to take out the U.S. and the UN just granted us full control. A key part of the divide is the so-called splinternet or balkanization of the internet, where mass-scale technology filters enable governments to determine what content will be available to its citizens. China, Russia, Iran, and Saudi Arabia continue to restrict what's allowed and what isn't. But at a lower level, many other countries nibble around the edges of what's greenlit and what isn't. And that's the truth to what's occurring. The control of every message, the control of state-run media, China seizing control through BeiDou, in just part as a GPS capability, but more the destruction of freedom on a mass scale. And they started this with the Belt and Road Initiative many, many years ago, because the same map that you see here is where the rollout of that satellite system will cover. That should strike fear in the heart of every American, because that control, those countries, that domination, that singular communist message will be permeated throughout the entire map you see here, starting in 2020. You see, the war has already begun. And then the final kill step. They don't need Google apps anymore. They don't need Android apps anymore. BeiDou permits them to execute their own apps. That's in March of 2020 when Huawei releases the P40 flagship, operating with Chinese technology, Chinese applications, and Chinese programs, allowed to be broadcast through the BeiDou satellite system, weaponized by the UN. This is a full, all-out, full-scale attack on the United States of America. Our great republic and our freedoms are in grand jeopardy. And so what will 2020 bring? A decision. A decision by every American. A decision that if it's enough is enough. What will it take? Once these things are turned on, they will never be turned off. And that we need to remain aware of. That is how this war in 2020 has already started. How the UN has already authorized a strike on the U.S. by China and Russia. How our great republic is under attack in every way, shape, and form, because we've allowed so much of our lives to be weaponized through technology that they now control the very agendas that they desire against our great nation. I want to thank Lisa again for allowing me to fill in. My name is Justice Knight. I certainly hope you will subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also, she wanted me to give a shout out to Virtual Shield. So necessary right now with everything we just covered. 30% off. An amazing holiday special. HideWithLisa.com. That's Virtual Shield offering you a happy holidays and an extra 30% off. Amazing deal, amazing company. And right now, that's the very, very first step of what we need to do to protect ourselves, because there is so much more to this agenda that will unfold. Lisa and I will both be covering it in great detail. So until next time, Godspeed and God bless. My name is Justice Knight. I can't thank you enough again for allowing me to be here. Signing out.